Capitol Hill, members of both the Armed Services and Intelligence Committees, Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. I want to start really quickly with a question. Are you going to be speaking at the convention next week?
Yes, Joe, I do intend to be speaking at the convention. We're waiting to nail down the final date and time, but I look forward to talking about our military and our veterans and what we need to do to make sure that we're serving them so they can serve us.
I want to point your attention to the front of the Washington Post. The top headline says that ISIS is preparing for the fall of the caliphate. What can you tell us about the military situation right now in our war against ISIS on the ground? Really doing that well?
Well, Joe, we're making advances in Iraq, but it's important to distinguish between the advances we're making in Iraq and in Syria. ISIS really has two different main parts of the caliphate, in western Iraq and eastern Syria. We've been making gains with the Iraqi military in Iraq. Now, Mosul is the only major city that ISIS still controls there. But as the CIA director, John Brennan, has said, those gains have really done nothing to stop the Islamic State's external operations capabilities from Syria and from places like Libya, which is the next most dangerous and developed ISIS branch. So while we're making good gains in Iraq, I think we're moving a little bit too slowly, and we're not hitting them hard enough in places like Syria and Libya to prevent them from launching the kind of attacks with regularity and impunity that we're increasingly seeing.
Senator, you support a robust foreign policy, a strong leadership role for our country in the world, and I know you're a backer of Donald Trump, but I wonder how you square the fact that on relationships with our allies, it's actually Hillary Clinton who so far has advanced a more robust, a more internationalist, a more full-throated role for our country and our military on the world stage.
Well, I certainly wouldn't say I'm close to Hillary Clinton's foreign policy.
No, you're a Trump backer. You've endorsed Donald Trump and you back him, but on foreign policy, he supports and has a lot of questions about NATO and how important they are. Doesn't seem to understand their role in our national security. On 9/11, he just has views that seem sort of out of the mainstream of traditional Republican foreign policy. And your respected voice on Iran and on the Middle East. I wonder if part of what you're going to talk about at the convention is to bring Republicans along to give him some credibility on those issues.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say they're that far away from a traditional Republican foreign policy, which believes in a very strong military and a robust role for America in the world, but backed up by that military, hopefully without having to use the military. Because ultimately our common defense's goal is not to fight and win wars, but to stop them from happening in the first place. But just to take one example, you cited NATO. Donald Trump has cited a common problem that I and many Republicans and Democrats alike have cited for years, that European NATO members are not spending what they need to maintain that common defense. Now, his proposed solution at the time is not something I would support, suggesting that we should spend less or maybe we should leave NATO. I think since then, though, he has said, for instance, that NATO needs to be playing a stronger role in the fight against the Islamic State, which of course implicitly acknowledges the role that we play in NATO and the role that NATO plays in the world.
Senator, what would you urge your candidate, your Republican candidate for president, to do with regard to Turkey and the volatile issue within Syria and the role that Turkey plays there?
Well, Turkey, along with some other regional countries, are our key ally in the fight against the Islamic State. And right now, I think Turkey feels somewhat neglected by the United States. They have major concerns about the alliance that we're building with Kurds in Syria because of the Kurds in their own country. They have major concerns with Bashar al-Assad's regime and the fact that he remains in power 5 years after President Obama said that he must go. With Turkey, like with Saudi Arabia, we have to assure our allies we're going to take their interest into account if we want them to fight alongside with us and do things like shut down the border between Turkey and Syria, prevent the increasing flow of migrants from Turkey to Greece. And if we don't take those interests into account, if we don't recommit to making sure that the Assad regime ultimately goes, that it's not replaced by some kind of Muslim Brotherhood type government, then we shouldn't be surprised that governments like Turkey and Saudi Arabia are not doing all that we would like them to do.
Senator, the president announced the other day that he was sending another 560 troops to Iraq, and he also announced that he was going to leave more troops in Afghanistan than he previously said. How do you think about those troop levels that he's now committed to for the rest of his term as it relates to what you would like to see there?
Let me take those in sequence. So first, in Iraq, we sent a little over 500 troops to Iraq, mostly kind of combat enablers to do things like repair bridges that we're going to need to if we're going to retake Mosul. But I think it's an example of the incrementalism and the gradualism that's characterized our campaign against the Islamic State. It seems like every few weeks, especially after a bombing around the world, we announce some new change. We're going to send special operations forces to Syria where we didn't have them. We're going to let troops go to the battalion level where they were limited to the brigade level. We're going to send a few more hundred troops. We should just take stock of all the things that we could be doing and we're not doing, and we should do them right now before there's another bombing. Second, in Afghanistan, I don't know why the president reduced the troop numbers by 1,000, but I am glad that he kept them in the 8,500 range. I wish he had followed the commander's recommendation and kept them near 10,000. I wish that he had done it much earlier, but that's characterized his approach to Afghanistan for all 8 years. It is better than nothing, though, and it will allow our forces there to continue working with the Afghan National Security Forces and to continue to target the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and the Islamic State in Afghanistan.
All right, Senator Tom Cotton, I'm sure we're going to hear much more about this at the Republican National Convention. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks, guys.